Hi, everybody. This is Blaine DeSantis, and I welcome you to another edition of Books and Looks. Yes, it's our weekly voyage of discovery in the wonderful world of books. Books that I have been reading and authors that I've been interviewing. But today, due to one of those weird and wacky things that happen with scheduling, the author who was supposed to be here is unable to make it. It happens in the world, these things do happen. But luckily, yes, luckily for you, I am here. And what does that mean? I've told you time and time again about viewsonbooks.com, where I post book reviews of books, many of which are on this podcast, but most of which are not on the podcast. So what I'm going to do is give you a brief sample of some of the books that I consider some of the best books that I've read so far this year. I know they will not be on our podcast, okay? But they're going to have links to all this. You can go to viewsonbooks.com, and I know my producer is going to put that there for everybody, viewsonbooks.com, and you can go and you start reading these book reviews. But I want to talk about these books first to see if that's whet your appetite. Because I'm going to tell you what, there are some doggone good books out there. Anyway, let's get started. Do you like mystery? Maybe police procedurals? Do you like going overseas? That's it for me. When I'm looking for a mystery book, friends, I'm looking for something that's overseas. I want to learn something. I want to get that feel of a different country. Oh, I know you can go to Los Angeles and feel that gritty stuff, but you know what? Take me overseas. I'm going to talk to you about a book that I read called Uniform Justice by Donna Leon. Now, Donna Leon has been writing for 30, 40 years. She is a wonderful writer, okay? And she has a series of books. This is actually book number 12, Uniform Justice. It involves her detective Gamache. It's set over in Venice. Yes, we have all the canals and we've got all the things that make Venice great. The food, the looks, the setting. It is a wonderful book and a great cast of characters that go with it. My personally recommendation to all of you is begin with book 1 and grow with Donna Leon. But this year I read book number 12. Yeah, I deliberately paced myself, okay? The way I'm going, I'll be 120 by the time I get done with all her books. But the bottom line is pace yourself. And that's what I'm doing with book number 12, Uniform Justice. Now, you're going to have to forgive me because I'm going to have to be reading and referring to my notes a little bit, okay? Because I don't want to make mistakes. So you may see me looking down, pausing, searching, whatever. But I've got some notes here, and I thought you might be interested in this book. This is actually one of my favorite books. There's not a lot of action. Her books are not shoot 'em up, bang, bang sort of things with the police. No, there's not a lot of action. It's a lot of interesting things with her inspector, and he just sits there and he contemplates things and he finds crimes that have been going on, what's happening. And here we have a very interesting situation where a young boy, age 17, dies in a military academy over in Venice. And something's not quite right. Something doesn't fit right. Everybody says, oh, it's a suicide. But he left no suicide note. He wasn't taking any medicines. He hadn't expressed any concerns about his mental well-being to his classmates where he lived in the dorms, his parents, nothing. And yet he's found dead. Everybody's ready to quickly say it's a suicide. Oh, the people at the military academy, they want to get rid of this case fast. And so they are all hustling this to be a suicide. But again, no, not really saying it. And by the way, earlier in the word in this discussion, I said Gamache. It's Brunetti. That's right. Brunetti is her detective. He decides that he's going to keep investigating. And he looks at the parents' family. It's a very strange family because the mother and father are separated, which is not unusual nowadays. But he was a politician. And after a few years, he was kicked out of office because what he was doing was exposing the corruption in the system over in Italy. No, they don't like that. And the Italian system over in Venice, works on corruption, works on greed, works on graft. And this gentleman, who was a reformer, they didn't want him. But his wife leaves, okay? And now 2 years prior to this suicide, his wife is shot in the leg. Now, does that have anything to do with this? No one investigates this. No one investigates it. A woman shot in the leg out in the middle of the woods, and no one investigates it. Yeah, it does. Again, Brunetti says something's wrong. Something is wrong. This doesn't make a lot of sense. Then there's the daughter. Yeah, there's a daughter too. No one can find her. Where'd she go? They're searching all over. They can't find the daughter. Is she alive? Is she dead? Is she hidden somewhere? This is stuff that's going on and drives Brunetti nuts. It is a wonderful look at the political and military systems over there in Italy, where everybody goes to the same school and they're spitting out the same ideas, the same thing as the forefathers did. It's sort of like, well, at one time, I can't say this for sure, but at one time, many different architectural schools, okay, they all believed in doing the same thing. If you're up in Berks County, Pennsylvania, it was red or brown brick. Like, that's the main thing. Oh, let's design a building of brick. Okay, come on. Everybody does that because they went to the same schools. And that's the same thing. This thing, they go to the same places. And they all think they're above the law and above society. And boy, I'll tell you what. The thing about these books is that eventually Brunetti does solve the case. Oh my, he solved the case. But you know what? Nothing is ever tied together in a neat bow. Yeah, in the end, that never happens. Because I'm going to tell you what. That's the way things go over there in Venice, in Italy. You might be able to solve a case, but you aren't going to be able to stop the underlying cause of it. And so, was it suicide? Was it murder? Is there justice? Or is it just more of the same again and again? By book 12, Inspector Brunetti is getting pretty tired of this whole situation. Luckily, we know that she's on book 33 or 34, so he hasn't thrown in the towel after book 12. But by the way, wonderful book. Donna Leon. You can get her any library. You can get her through my website. Very, very good book. Now, do you like, again, I'm going to stay in mysteries. Okay, a lot of people like mysteries, and they're wonderful books to read. I have a hard time interviewing mystery writers, except for Michael Jacks, who was a heck of a lot of fun. But it's not that the mystery writers aren't fun. It's just we can't get into a lot of things. You know, we can't give away plots, spoilers, boom, 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 boom. And it sort of limits what I can ask and what they want to talk about. But boy, I enjoy reading a good mystery. And here's one that I really want you to pay attention to. It's called The Lost Van Gogh. Now, make sure, right? Lost, not last, because there's a book called The Last Van Gogh. This is The Lost, L-O-S-T, Van Gogh by Jonathan Santlofer. Now, what makes Jonathan Santlofer interesting as an author is he's also an artist. Yeah, he's also an artist. So when he starts writing about artworks, and that's what he does. He writes about art matters, art mysteries. Okay. You know where he's coming from. You know he's got the background. You know he's got the ability to talk about things, not just as a writer, but as one of them. Okay. He is one of them. We're now looking, it's going to keep us on the edge of our seat because we have got this Van Gogh painting, the lost one. And it may have been the last one, by the way. But this painting is discovered up in New York. No one knows what it was. It was not a Van Gogh. Except what happened was this painting was scratched somehow. And in the scratching, they could see there was something underneath it. And when they removed the paint, they can do that nowadays, there was the Van Gogh. How did it get to upstate New York? And how did I get our two protagonists here? I want to get their names right here. Luke Peroni and Alexis Verdi. They both are children of art thieves. Both children of art thieves, but they're here to help solve art crimes. They find this, and within, I guess, 12 hours of finding it, they've lost it again. Everybody is on it because there's been rumors. Where is this painting? And we want this painting. No, they want this painting. There are all sorts of people going on here. And, you know, this is just a gem of a book. I got to be honest with you, folks. This is a gem of a book. It's a wonderful, wonderful, fast weekend read. you really learn a lot about art history because it delves into the death of Vincent van Gogh. Now, a lot of us have heard that story that Van Gogh was out in the middle of a field and committed suicide. He allegedly, folks, allegedly, he shot himself. But he didn't shoot himself in the head. He didn't shoot himself in the heart. He shot himself in the stomach. And he was able to stagger back to the town that he was in. I think it was Arles. And he dies 2 or 3 days later. And so, this is truth. Everybody now takes Vincent van Gogh's death as a suicide. But there are alternate theories that it wasn't a suicide, that he was shot by a jilted lover. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Shot by a jilted lover. Because no one ever found the gun. Did you know that? No one ever found the gun that was supposedly used to kill Vincent van Gogh. Another one. Let's get him buried and get him out of the way. Boom, boom, boom. So we're not only searching to find the life of Van Gogh, what happened to the painting, we're looking into everything. And this is art history and art mystery at its absolute best. This is a wonderful read as we try to find out, because one other interesting thing is that this painting, this last lost painting, by the way, was there at his funeral. That's right. It was on display at his funeral. How did it get there and where did it go? No one knows where that painting disappeared to. It left. Legitimately, it's gone. Except in this book, they found it. It was hidden and covered over by Nazis. Yeah, not by Nazis, but they keep it being captured by Nazis in World War II. And then it's been shipped from here to there, everywhere. So that once the Van Gogh is stolen, our Peroni and Verdi, our protagonists, they're going from New York over to Amsterdam. They're flying here, they're flying there, they're trying to sit there. I'm telling you what, there are a lot of thieves, there are a lot of rogues, there are a lot of allies, there's a lot going on. We got, the FBI involved, actually sort of discredited FBI agents involved. I'm telling you what, it was a wonderful, wonderful read. And if you say, hey, what am I going to read on a long weekend or maybe a rainy weekend? How about The Lost Van Gogh? Yeah. The Lost Van Gogh by Jonathan Santlofer. I think you won't go wrong reading that one. Do you like true crime? I don't mind. One time I didn't read true crime book. Too gory. I don't want to read about that stuff. Okay. But how about a true crime book over in Hollywood? Oh, now that piques my interest. Because now we're dealing with the life of Lana Turner. Wow, Lana Turner and true crime? Oh, yeah. Now if you're my age, I'm 70. Okay, I remember a lot of those Lana Turner movies. Okay, she was a sex queen, a sex buff. She was gorgeous. She was all over everything. People wanted Lana Turner in their movies, and she started at age 16 or 17. But this is the story about the death of Johnny Stompanato. And I can't make that name up. Johnny Stompanato. And Lana's rise to fame, her relationship with many, many different men, eventually leading to Johnny Stompanato, and finally his death. Wow. Again, you talk about another book you can sit down and get lost in. A Murder in Hollywood by Casey Sherman is one of those books. Because we do chart Lana's rise to fame. And she was, like I said, everybody wanted her in their movies. Probably one of the most famous, A Postman Rings Twice. Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful movie and wonderful parts that she just captures the screen. But behind the scenes, she was a troubled lady. She was married multiple times, which was not new for Hollywood, okay, but multiple times. And she has a daughter whose name is Cheryl, if I'm not mistaken. And the one person that she marries, her one husband, turns out to basically be a pedophile. Yeah. Poor Cheryl's abused during that marriage, and finally something happens that Lana then finds out, and then that guy's gone. But she keeps running into bad people, including but not limited to Johnny Stompanato. Now, who's Johnny Stompanato? Well, he's a low-time gambler, crook, part of the Mickey Cohen gang out in Los Angeles. We've all heard of Mickey Cohen, one guy who led the mob in the West Coast. Well, Stompanato was part of that, and they set up a deal. They set up a thing, what they call a honey trap. I'm not sure I got that right. A honey trap, where Stompanato would pretend to be interested in Lana Turner, and he would eventually capture her on photographs in sexually compromising positions, not necessarily with Johnny Stompanato, but with other people, men and women alike. That didn't happen, okay? Because what happened was Johnny Stompanato fell in love with Lana Turner. And Lana Turner, well, had a little trepidation because this would have been like husband number 7. Eventually, Lana Turner marries him. And then Stompanato sees that she can be, his sugar honey. Yeah, he's going to profit from her. He's going to live off of her wealth. Now, she doesn't do what he says. He got rather abusive, very abusive, physically abusive. She couldn't work on certain pictures because of the bruises on her face and body. Yeah, she was a mess. There was no way to get out from Johnny Stompanato because there was Mickey Cohen backing him. You don't mess with Mickey Cohen. Anyway, eventually, one day, there's another argument in the house, and a gunshot rings out, and Johnny Stompanato is dead. And there's Lana Turner. And they call in the Hollywood fixer. She calls the studio, here comes the fixer. Let's see what we can do. And now we got the story of what happened. Mm-hmm. And eventually there's a trial. Yeah, people don't realize that. They put Lana Turner on trial for murder. And she was acquitted. Because there's really no one who can sit there and give the details to contradict or to contradict her version of what happened. How she was abused. And everybody knew she was abused. And he came at her with an, and eventually, actually, it wasn't a shot, by the way. I'm sorry. My memory flagged there a moment. He was stabbed to death. That's what it was. He was stabbed. She had a knife. And as he charged her, she put the knife out and stabbed him. There was nobody who could contradict that. Ah, okay. But Casey Sherman doesn't quite believe that in his book. He thinks there's another person who might be responsible for the death of Johnny Stompanato. I'm not going to revolve who this is because that gives away the whole thing. But he thinks there's another person who may have actually been the murderer of Johnny Stompanato. Not that there's ever been a confession, not that there's ever been another trial, not that there's anything that can conclusively say it didn't happen the way Lana Turner said. Who could it be? You're going to have to find out because it's a very interesting twist to this story. And I think you're going to really, really like it. It's called A Murder in Hollywood. Again, true life, true crime, true history. And Hollywood, oh boy, I'll tell you, they had me from the beginning. I want to stay on Hollywood. Do you mind if I stay on Hollywood a bit? Did you like movies? Do you like movies and TV? Oh, I love movies and TV. Yeah. I want to talk to you about Robert Wagner. Now, I love Robert Wagner. Do you know, there's certain actors who, when they're in something, you want to watch it. It Takes a Thief with Robert Wagner and Eddie Albert. That was one of them. And he had other TV shows, and he was in movies. And people don't realize he's written 3 books. That's right. He's written 3 books, co-written by a good friend of the podcast, Scott Eyman. Yeah. I'm going to talk to you about I Loved Her in the Movies. I Loved Her in the Movies. And folks, I'm trying desperately to get an interview with Robert Wagner. Don't know if we're going to be able to do that, folks. He's 94 right now. 94. He's one of the last surviving people of that golden era of Hollywood. And this is a book that's dedicated to the women of Hollywood. And it is a wonderful book. Oh my God. To go down memory lane. He worked with people, those people from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. You say, well, I don't remember him. Okay, for you kids out there, younger people, you remember Austin Powers? He was number 2. Yeah, remember the gray-haired man who was number 2 was actually the brains behind everything? Yeah, that's Robert Wagner. What a wonderful life and career he's had. So many movies, so many TV shows. He talks about all these people who he's met in his life. Do you know he's young enough? He's old enough now. He dated Gloria Swanson's daughter. Are you kidding me? Gloria Swanson, whose last big swan song was Sunset Boulevard back in that early 50s? Wow. He dated her daughter. They didn't get married, okay, but he dated her. He dated some other girls. He met many women in the movies. He grew up out there in Hollywood, was part of them. So when Robert tells you about stories, and he's not here to tell you the sordid stuff. No. He's here to tell you why he loved them in the movies. Why were they special to him? One of the most special ones was Joan Blondell. Yeah, who would have thought of that? Joan Blondell. She was a wonderful actress. The last part I remember her having, she was in Grease. She played Val, if I'm not mistaken, the waitress at the one place. Yeah, which eventually led into the girls singing beauty school dropout. But Joan Blondell was a great actress, and she actually came west with Jimmy Cagney. They were together in New York performing, and they both went west together. And so they did some movies together, and he tells stories about that. He tells stories about inside things about Irene Dunne, one of his favorites. Loretta Young, who was one of his favorites too, who had a very deep, dark secret. Because you see, Loretta Young portrayed the very wholesome and motherly, paragon of virtue, and was extremely charitable in all that she did, especially with the Catholic charities. And yet, she had a child. She had a child out of wedlock. And so there's some issues here. You'll find out some of those things. She tells you about Barbara Stanwyck, okay? Who I love Barbara Stanwyck. Who doesn't love Barbara Stanwyck? Ooh, Smoking and Double Indemnity. Just, wow, I love Barbara Stanwyck. She was so good. A lot of you may remember her from the Big Valley, which was a TV show, a Western set in the 60s. That was produced in the 60s. A very good book, a very good TV show. But he talks all about her. He talks about his wives a little bit. Natalie Wood, who to me was one of the beauties of all time of Hollywood until her tragic death out there in Catalina. He talks about his current wife, Jill St. John, another beautiful woman, talented woman. He talks about them. He talks about who he's met, who he's done, why it's hard for women. Now, this is an interesting point, too. He makes a distinct point by saying it's so hard for women in Hollywood to have a career of more than 15 years. Think of that. Women can only have a career of around 15 years back then. And think about it even now. You only start acting seriously at a certain age. Maybe you're 18, maybe you're 20, 25. By the time you're 40, those roles are starting to change. And we've seen this with so many great actresses. By the time they hit a certain age, after around 15 years, off they go. Fascinating look at what Hollywood was, and it still is in many ways. Yeah. So he talks about all these good things. I mean, this is just, why did Greer Garson only perform in certain movies? I love Greer Garson. Why didn't she perform in others? What was Betty Davis like? He knew Betty Davis. I mean, this is really a who's who of every woman who's in Hollywood. And it's all very easy, very well put together. It's the third of his 3-book series. Again, it's called I Loved Her in the Movies by Robert Wagner and co-written by Scott Eyman, who is a wonderful writer, wonderful person we had him on the book on Charlie Chaplin. Yeah. Chaplin versus America, or America versus Chaplin, really. Yeah. Fascinating book. Anyway, I thought you might like that. Now, we've had some true crime. We've had some mysteries. We've had some, where are we at next? I got to get my pages here. Hold on. What's one here? Oh, here's an interesting one. Okay, now here's one that you're not going to really find everywhere, but you're going to find it, a review of it on my website, viewsonbooks.com. And it's called The Enchanted April. The Enchanted April. Please mark this title down, friends. The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. Elizabeth von Arnim. Okay? This book was written over 100 years ago. That's what I'm going to say. You're not going to go out. It's not going to be in the bookstore. Okay? You can still get it on Amazon. I'm sure if you go to Barnes & Noble, you can do it there. Of course, we have a link. We'll have a link to that for you. Um, it's a wonderful book about four women from different types of life. They're not friends. They all from different, walks of life. Some are high society, like Lady Caroline. Some are basically there's a religious lady, church lady. There are other people, maybe a loveless marriage, maybe one who's in a situation where she was never married. They don't know each other until one day in the Sunday Times, there is an advertisement for renting a castle in Italy in April. This piques one of their interests. And she sees another woman there reading the Times. And she goes up to her and said, "What would you think if we would go to Italy and go and rent this castle?" The lady thinks she's crazy. "What do you mean? We? I don't know you. Who are you?" "Well, I'm Mrs. So-and-so." "Yeah? Well, my husband's a lawyer." "Okay. Haven't I seen you at church? Aren't you doing very many things with church?" "Yeah, but I never met you. I don't know you." "Well, if you're not doing anything, I would love to go to Italy in April, wouldn't you? It sounds like a beautiful time." And eventually they find each other's background and they decide to go, but they say, "Hey, we just can't do it ourselves." So they put out an ad in the newspaper and they find two more people who would like to go. One was Lady Caroline and one another woman. The lady who's, I think she's a church lady. And so April comes and they all fly to Italy. There's no men in this book, not in the beginning. No men. And they start to get there and they start to see and examine their lives. The beauty of Italy in April. It's a little bit ahead of us where they're at. The smell of the flowers, the beauty of the sky. Eventually, the one realizes she misses her husband so badly that she writes him to come and please join us. We only have a month. Please come as soon as you can. They all think she's crazy, but they don't contradict her or anything. And we read about how they all start developing and evolving. And all of a sudden, even Lady Caroline, who is just this aloof member of God knows society, even she starts realizing there's more to her life than just being pursued by every man out there who she can't stand. And eventually she comes to realize there's more beauty in this world. This is only around 170 pages long, but the descriptions are out of this world. Now, the author is Elizabeth von Arnim, Von Arnim, Arnim, The Enchanted April. I read this book and I wasn't enchanted. It enchanted me about the beauty of Italy. Now, I've been to Italy, okay? I've been to Italy many times. And what she writes about is so true. And it's probably true. I think the other week I was talking to Amy Runyon, and I said the same thing. What is it when you get over to Europe? The air is clearer. The food tastes better. Things smell better. What is it? What is it? I don't know. Maybe it's because they're finally relaxed and away from the hustle and bustle of London, or maybe away from having to be themselves in a certain manner of society the way they are. They've been pigeonholed. Whatever it is, these four women get there and they are transformed. They're all transformed one way or the other. Yes, eventually the husband does show up. Yes. And he brings his own set of issues and how he's transformed by the beauty of the area. And you know what? If you've never been to Italy, and of course I'm prejudiced, I got to be honest with you, I'm prejudiced. But if you've never been to Italy, Elizabeth von Arnim brings Italy to you in this book. You can almost see it, smell it, and taste it. You feel how these women felt, how their lives were now becoming fulfilled, how love had come back into their lives. It's just a wonderful book. I'm telling you what, I wish it was longer. That's my only criticism of this book. I wanted another 50 pages. I wanted more. But, April turns into May and they have to leave. But they took with them the beauty, they took with them the memories and the love that they found in Italy. And you know what? We can find it here if we look at it. See, I don't have to go to Italy. Maybe I can go out in my backyard. Maybe I can go to the next state. Maybe I can go on a vacation a little bit. Yeah. We start to appreciate things. When I went out west, I began to appreciate America more than I ever did. the beauty that was out there. It made me appreciate my family, my kids, my wife more and more and more. What a lucky man I was. What a lucky man I am. Anyway, The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. Okay? That's a good book. Now, let's see. The last book I'm going to talk to you about today. Where are we at here? Oh, we have plenty of time. One more book. Okay? The last book I'm going to talk to you today is called The Atlas Maneuver. The Atlas Maneuver by Steve Berry. Now, this is a book a lot of guys are going to like, okay? So if women, if you're listening to this podcast, get your husband to talk to them about this book. They're going to read this book because it is Steve Berry. This is his 18th book with the Cotton Malone, who was a former member of the National Security. It's a NSA. Okay? He was worked for them. He is back. I thought Cotton Malone was getting a little tired and irritating by the last book 17, but book 18, he is back. It's called The Atlas Maneuver. It is absolutely the best book he has written in, I'd say, 5, 6, 7 years, because I've read them all. And okay, this is a real good book because we're talking about economy. We're talking about the economy. We're talking about gold. We're talking about currency. We're talking about Bitcoin. Yeah. All these things that are out there, and it all comes together. And Steve Berry has explained all this so much better than anybody else that I've ever read that, you know what, I now finally begin to understand the whole situation of cryptocurrency, okay, and blockchains and all this other stuff. It's fascinating, fascinating stuff. But what's happening is that there's somebody who's trying to corner the market on this cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. Yeah, and so now things are happening. An assassin kills somebody in Russia. Something else is happening weird and wacky going on with other parts of Europe. And into the breach, here comes Cotton Malone. Cotton's been sent over there to investigate with his girlfriend, Cassiopeia Witt. She's there also. And so this book takes place in Switzerland. Other parts of Switzerland's Cassiopeia, because he's in one part, she's in another part. She goes to Luxembourg. I mean, we're all over the word. Oh, we go to Morocco, too. Let's not forget Morocco. But we're trying to find out what's going on with this Bitcoin conspiracy and what are the Atlas maneuvers. This is all fascinating because it's all set up by a bank. A bank is trying to control everything. Forget the individual countries. This one bank wants to control and dominate the world. What it says goes, and not everybody is doing good things at the bank. So this is really a fine, outstanding book. And you know what I always love about Steve Berry? At the end of the book, Steve Berry always has something called fact and fiction. And he goes down the list of everything that's in the book that is factual. See, I like that. See, again, you're noticing something. I like facts, I like history, and I like settings over in Europe. And that hits all of them, you see. This is an espionage thriller book you're not going to want to miss. It's really, really good because he talks about, like I said, what's fact and then what he made up. But he blends that in with the fact. So it all becomes one. You can search it. You can do, some people do a Google search. I do a Bing search. I do Bing searches. Okay. I do my Bing search and I find all this stuff. I'm like, oh my God, that's right. Oh my God, that's right. I can't believe that. He writes about all this stuff. His research is impeccable. You're not going to be disappointed in this book. And if you said, well, I haven't read the first 17, Blaine, that's okay. You don't need to do that. You'll just have a darn good time following Cotton Malone in book 17 called The Atlas Maneuver. I have more, folks, a lot more, but I'm not going to hold you forever today. I hope you've enjoyed me talking a little bit about books. They're going to be on viewsonbooks.com. Let's remember that again, folks, viewsonbooks.com. You can read them. You can get the links, etc. I think you'll really enjoy these. And I'm going to do this maybe periodically. Come back on. I hope we don't have more problems with authors, but it happens some days. And this is a good time for me to chat directly with you. Okay? So you say, well, Blaine, are you looking at anything? Yes, I am looking at something this week. I am broke. That's right. I am broke. No, I'm not really broke. Oh, silly me. No, but I'll tell you what. If you're like me, did you have a picnic on Memorial Day? Did you have a Memorial Day picnic? Did you see how much the food costs this year compared to last year? The numbers are outstanding. The numbers are crazy. In the last month, hot dogs have risen 7%. Risen 7% in a month. Hamburgers, 6.5%. I don't care what you have, potatoes, the macaroni salad, all up, 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 up. The potato chips have gone up and the bags have got smaller and smaller and smaller. But you know what's the biggest, the biggest price rise last year to this year? A 50%, I think it's 52% price rise on pickle relish. That's right, pickle relish. You know that thing you squeeze out of the bottle and put in your hot dog or your hamburger? Yeah. It went from something like $3.25 to $4.70 some cents. Are you kidding me? Pickle relish? Are you kidding me? Why am I looking at that? Because I'm tired of the Federal Reserve. I'm tired of the administration telling me inflation's under control. Come to my house. Come to where I shop, and you tell me inflation's under control. Magda, my dear wife, who does her No Fear cooking show, she says, well, dear Blaine, what are we supposed to do? No, I can't do anything. I personally cannot bring down the price of pickle relish. But you know what? I don't want to be lied to. No, don't lie to me and say something's under control when it's not. Yeah. Did you read the story? I just read a story today. A Big Mac meal that costs $18. A meal at McDonald's costs $18. Oh, please. Then tell me inflation's under control. Tell me it's affordable for people to eat out there. No, folks, I'm not broke, but every day our dollar doesn't seem to stretch not nearly as much as it used to. So that's what I'm looking at. And I had a good time talking to you about that, especially with pickle relish. Anyway, hey, listen, we'll be back next week with another really good book and author, and I'm particularly going to really like that one. It's a very fine book about code breaking, so I think you're going to like that. Anyway, on behalf of viewsonbooks.com, have I said that enough this week? On behalf of my good friends at Podcast Studio X, this is Blaine DeSantis for Books and Looks saying, may all your leaves be pages in a book. Oh.